welcome to Lauren Reed Color. Thanks so much for joining me for another episode of Saturday Snippets. I got quite a lot done this past week, and I also got some goodies that I'm eager to share with you. But before I talk about any of that, I just wanted to talk a bit about what we're going to be doing on today's episode. If you watched last week, you know that we started working in Romantic Country by Eriy, and the page that we began is, the Sleepy Time page. Actually, after everything that I was worried about last time, I don't think it came out as bad as I was expecting. I think most of it is pretty okay, but it does need some smoothing out. And we are going to be doing that today. For this, I have some supplies that I'm going to be using. So if you want to, you can pause the video after I have gone through all of this so that you can gather them and then join me as I color the page, or as I am saying to myself, fix up the disaster. Anyway, so what am I going to be doing? I'm going to be doing my own do-it-yourself distress ink technique to smooth out the problematic areas on the background of the page. So for that, I'm going to be using, I haven't really decided yet, I'm either going to be using Arteza gouache in the ballerina pink color, or I'm going to be using Arteza watercolor in the ballerina pink. Any pink color will do. So if you have a pink gouache by any brand, it will do. If you have a pink watercolor, it will do. If you used a different shade of pink than I did on your background last time, then all you need to do really is match whatever watercolors or gouache you have in your collection to the color that you have put down. I've chosen these two because they are the closest match to what I already have. So yeah, you can use any watercolor or any gouache that matches what you already have. In addition, I also have a white acrylic. Now, this acrylic is by the Art Deco brand, which is very easy to get where I live. And it is sort of like an off-white, pinkish white, not really an actual titanium white, but even titanium white will work. It doesn't really matter. I just chose this one because it does have sort of a pinkish tint to it. I also have some blenders. So I have these little blenders that fit on your finger, although I don't actually use them on my finger. I also have one of these really nice blender applicator things. Any blender will work. You can use the one that comes with the distress inks if you have distress inks. I have a round water color brush, and I have one of these other blender things which are really soft. I've never actually tried these out, so I'm thinking of experimenting. And I also have a palette. Any palette will do. This was a palette that I made. I took the glass out of a picture frame. I followed a tutorial on YouTube for this. It was not my own idea. If I can find it, I will put it in the description box. Anyway, so I took the glass out of a picture frame. I put some white printer color paper on the back and taped it down with sticky tape. And basically all you've got to do is put whatever medium you want onto the palette and use the brush to mix it with water, whatever. I really like this palette because when I add glycerin, which is another thing that I have, but you don't need the glycerin. I'll talk about that. Sometimes I use glycerin as well. So if you put the watercolor down and then you drop the glycerin on top of the watercolor and you use the applicator, it creates the distress ink effect. However, you don't need glycerin because we're going to be using acrylic. You will get a very, very similar effect to the glycerin if you mix the watercolor with the acrylic and then put it down on the page. It creates a very similar effect. My recommendation is to, play around with it, see what you like and what you enjoy using, what creates the effects that you want on the page, and then you can use whatever you like. But this is the equipment that we will be using, and I will also show you an example of a page that I completed this week where I used this technique. Okay, so let me move on to showing you my whips. Actually, I'm going to begin by showing you the goodies that I got this week. So I was contacted a little while ago by Artex, and they asked me if they could send me their new liquid ink acrylic markers for review on the channel. And I said, of course, because I'm not going to say no to Artex. And they arrived this week. I will be filming a video showing you what I think about the markers. But in the meantime, they have arrived. This is what they look like. I think they're absolutely beautiful. At least in appearance. I will talk a little bit more about my impressions of them because I've also already swatched them and all of that in the actual review, but I'm excited to be playing with them as well. So yeah, I got that. And I also got a couple of coloring books. So a few weeks ago on the Saturday Snippets video, I was talking about how I received so many cute animals by Kim Parish, also for review on the channel. And my copy arrived really banged up. It was bent, it was creased, and I really wasn't going to keep it in my collection because I found it impossible to work with. I did try to color a little bit, but the creases were simply too bad. I didn't contact the publisher to say anything about it, but very surprisingly, I received, without any notice, another package in the mail with a replacement copy of the book. And so it is in perfect, pristine condition. I'm really happy, and I am eager to work in it. Again, I will do a separate video on the channel with a flip through and maybe even start coloring a page. So it's such a cute book. It's just adorable, and I'm really pleased that I now have a copy that I can actually work in. So I received that. In that same package, I also received a copy of the Life is Beautiful coloring book by Jane Madej, and it is also a really lovely book with lovely paper. And again, I will be doing a flip through of it and maybe start coloring a page. It's all animals and inspirational sayings, which are really lovely, all I think associated with nature. And yeah, I was flipping through it, and the assistant was accompanying me through my flip through, and she was really eager to see if it had a sheep in it. She's got an obsession with coloring sheep, and unfortunately, it does not have a sheep, but it does have squirrels and snails. I love the snails, and mice and rabbits and frogs and all sorts of other lovely animals in it. So yeah, I will, as I said, do a full flip through and a first impressions or opinions, and maybe a little bit of coloring in it to test out some pencils. Yeah, so stay tuned on the channel for those videos. Okay, now let's move on to my actual whips. The page that I completed this week is in Daydreams by Hannah Carlzon. I belong to a group on Instagram where the prompt for June was butterflies and insects. In addition, this is a project book of mine, so I'm always really happy to color a page in it. And the page that I worked on is this butterfly and moths page. So if you watched my June plans video, you know that this was a bit of a problematic page for me. When I did this page, the watercolor that I used quite a lot of water, and it seeped through onto this page. And then I decided that I would try to make it look like one of those antique pin boards where you have insects pinned to the board. So I put in this black frame, and then later on after that I decided that I wanted to make all of the backgrounds in this book some sort of shade of blue or turquoise or green, and so that is what I've been doing since then. And I was a bit upset with myself that I had put in that black background, so I was wondering what I could do, and so I decided to do this page. Push comes to shove. The first thing I did was I colored the butterfly and the moths. I put down Inktense, and then I shaded with Castle Arts pencils, and I also used some Calero gold watercolor paint for some embellishments on the moths and to get that really gorgeous shine that you can see. And then I decided to do the background. Now, my original idea was to use Neocolor 2s as a base and then to put oil pastels down on top. However, once I had put the Neocolor 2s down on top, I saw that I was going to get a really lovely sort of glow effect, and I was concerned that if I put the oil pastels down on top, that glow effect was going to disappear. So instead, I used the do-it-yourself distress ink technique that I am going to be doing on our Sleepy Time page. But of course, here I used blue watercolor. So I used blue watercolor mixed with glycerin, and I put it down on the page with the applicator, and this is the effect that I got, and I love it. I am obsessed with this page, and I keep opening the book to look at what I have achieved. It was, let me tell you, a complete accident. Anyway, so that is the page that I completed in Daydreams by Hannah Carlson. And on to the whips of the week. The first one is in Twilight Garden by Maria Trolle, and this is a page that is a buddy color with the lovely Tiku from Tiku's Coloring Corner. And the page that we're working on is this Forest Pond page. I am coloring this using Polychromos pencils and the occasional Castle Arts pencil. So this week I finished shading the lily pads and the water lilies, and I started on the vegetation in the background and also started to do the background here at the top. My idea for this page is to have the background sort of feather outwards, something similar to what I did on the crocodile on the sandbank page. And yeah, I'm enjoying this buddy color very much. Tiku and I share our progress pictures and chat a little bit, and I'm really enjoying it, and I hope to work on this page more this week. So yeah, that is my progress in Twilight Garden. Another whip is in Enchanted Forest by Johanna Basford. This is also a buddy color. This time it is with the charming and delightful Christine from Sync Colors. As you can tell, I like to do my buddy colors at the beginning of the month. Anyway, Christine and I have colored quite a few pages in this book together, but the one we are coloring together now is this Down the Rabbit Hole page. Hold on, let me take off this protective sheet. So yeah, what have I done so far? I put down Neocolor 2s on the background, then I used Spectrum Noir color blend pencils on top, and then I went over on top of that with oil pastels to darken everything up, and I did exactly the same but with the brown shades on the dirt. And then what I did for the maze part is I took some of the oil pastel and smudged it slightly into the maze, and then I outlined it all with a white gel pen to get this sort of metallic effect, and I'm really pleased with the end result. All I have left to do is the vegetation here on the top and the little bunny rabbit hole here on the bottom, and then the page will be done, and I'm really enjoying this. It has been fun, and of course Christine and I have been chatting and comparing results and mediums. Her page is just out of this world gorgeous, but I will show it to you in the completed pages for June. Yeah, let me just put this back on top here so that I don't get my oil pastels smudged. Okay, so that is my page in Enchanted Forest. Another whip is in Rooms of Wonder, also by Johanna Basford, and if you've been watching some of my more recent videos, you know that I am going to be treating this book as a long-term whip book, and I'm also considering participating in the trend that is going around ColorTube, which is the page hopping trend. I know it was started by Maya from Colored by Maya. I know that Jess from Coloring Bumblebee and Joe from Geordie Colors are also participating in this trend, and it's basically choosing color palettes and then going from page to page and coloring different elements to get it started. So I might do that, but in the meantime, this is the page that I'm working on. It is the Rustic Keys page, and I sort of color a key a day. So this is what I've done so far. I'm really happy with it, and I will continue working on it. And I think once it's done, I think I might do the page hopping trend for the rest of the book. Yeah, so that is Rooms of Wonder by Johanna Basford. And last but not least is the page that I've begun in Mythographic Dragonspell by Joseph Katzenbang. This is for the Dragonspell group on Instagram, and June's page is the Sea Serpent. So this is what I've done so far. I've based it with alcohol markers, and if you want to see how I did this, I did it on my Coloring Red Flags video. As I was going through my flags, I based this page. Let me just also show you the color palette that I'm using, and it is from Johanna Stone's color palettes. So as you can see, I'm using the pastel colors to base, and then I will shade with pencils. So yeah, that is my whip in Mythographic Dragonspell. And now let's move on to fixing up our disaster page in Romantic Country. I just want to remind everyone that these are usually very chatty videos. I talk about all sorts of things that I encounter in my life and on the World Wide Web, but it's quite possible that today's episode might not be as chatty as usual, because I do want to demonstrate the technique and talk about how I do it and what the process is. So yeah, the beginning might be less chatty, more instructional, and then once we actually start applying it to the page, the chattiness might begin. Anyway, so let me go again through all of the materials that I have here. Okay, so I have a tube of Arteza gouache and a tube of Arteza watercolor in the colors that I believe will match what I have already got down on the page. If yours is slightly different, you choose whichever watercolors you like. It does not have to be in a tube. Yes, you can use both gouache and watercolors from a pan as well. You just put the color onto the palette from the pan instead of from the tube. It works exactly the same way. I also have some white acrylic. The acrylic that I will be using has a little bit of a pink tint to it, as I said earlier, but even white acrylic will work. I also have glycerin. We'll see if we're going to use it. I'm going to try different combinations of all of these things to find out which one I like the most on the paper in this book. Okay. I also have a little bottle of water, which I will drop onto the paint. This is just a used up bottle of eardrop medication that I have repurposed for water. And then I also have some blending tools. So I have this really soft blender. I've never used it before. I'm eager to try it out and see how it works. I have these little blenders, which I have worked before, and they work really well. And I have this blender tool, which also works quite well for blending. I used this one for the butterflies and moths page that I showed you earlier. I also have a watercolor paintbrush, and I have a pipette. This is what I will use to get the glycerin out of the bottle. I use a regular paintbrush rather than a water brush because I have to mix everything together, and it is easier to mix with a regular water brush than a regular paintbrush rather than a water brush. Okay. So yeah, let's get going. First off, I'm going to test out the combinations. So the first combination that I'm going to do is watercolor, okay, with acrylic. Okay, so let's put down some paint. Oops. Yes, it's quite possible that that'll be enough for everything that we do. I have just put paint all over. Hold on one second. Yes, I am a messy menace, but that is half the fun. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm just going to take some water, and I am going to dilute the paint a little bit, okay? You don't want it to be too thick, or you're not going to get the distress ink, the soft distress ink look. If you want the soft distress ink appearance, it's got to be quite diluted. Okay, the more paint you have, the darker the color will be on the paper. Also, this color from Arteza obviously has white in it already, because otherwise you would not get this pastel shade. All right, now what I'm going to do is we're going to do the glycerin first. I'm just going to take some glycerin. You only need a couple of drops. Okay, And you can get glycerin at any pharmacy. I just got it at my local pharmacy. Right, just a couple of drops. You don't need any more than that. Okay, 1 second. All right, let me just move all of this stuff over because I'm gonna have to get the coloring book. 1 second. Let's make some room. Okay, now I'm just taking the brush and I'm mixing the glycerin in with the paint. Let me put this on the side. Let's get the coloring book. All right, I'm first going to test it out on the back, okay? Before I decide, I'm gonna test out all of the different combinations here on the back to see which one I like the most, okay? I'm just going to take this brush. We're also going to see which blending tool works the best. So for example, this one, we're not getting much color. Let's try this one. Basically, I just lift it up off the palette. Ah, that's better, okay? So you can see I am getting it down. That looks pretty good, okay? And let's try this new one. Okay. Ooh, I like that. That's more like a brush. Okay, I actually think the best is this one. Okay, but I'm interested in this. Okay. Right, so that is the combination of water and glycerin. All right, let's try, let me put this on the side. Okay, now I'm going to add, see I've got more paint here that didn't have glycerin in it. So I'm going to take some of the acrylic. Let's just give it a shake. Okay, and just put a drop of acrylic. You really do not need more than that. Okay, just a really small amount. Let me just take, oh, actually, I'm going to get a different brush. You shouldn't use watercolor brushes with acrylic. Acrylic, when it's dried, has a plastic texture and it will ruin your brushes. So let me just get an acrylic brush. I always think that I'm well prepared and have everything set out beforehand, but invariably I need to go and get something that I have forgotten. Anyway, so these are acrylic paint brushes by Daler-Rowney, and they are specifically for acrylic paint. And this way I don't use my watercolor brushes and ruin them. So let's just make sure we've got some of the acrylic. Okay, now acrylic you have to work with pretty quickly because it dries. Okay, but also once it mixes with the watercolor, yes, it creates a much thicker texture. As you can see, you can always, of course, dilute it with water, which I am going to do. Okay, and then it gets a bit more diluted. Right. Okay. As you can see, it's a much thicker consistency than when I just used watercolor with the glycerin. Okay, so it's going to, I think, we will see, it's going to give us a much thicker consistency over top of the page. So 1 second, I might, because we've got a mess on that page, I might go with this one. Okay, I'm going to use a different blending tool. Okay. And yeah, see, it's much thicker consistency, and also that pinkish tint to the acrylic has made it a darker pink. Okay, so you can decide which you prefer. Do you prefer the lighter watercolor, or do you prefer the darker pink mixed in with the acrylic? Okay, so that's a couple of options. All right, I'm just going to wash this off because now we're going to use the gouache. I always wash in between. I wash my brushes off and my mainly because acrylic dries really hard and plasticky, and I don't want it to ruin the brushes. So while it's still wet, I like to remove it. Okay, anyway, moving on. So now we're going to try the two techniques, but this time with gouache paint. Now, gouache paint is already thicker in consistency than watercolor, okay? So let's put a little bit of the gouache, just a drop. You really don't need a lot of paint for anything that we're going to be doing. All right, now again, I take my dropper, I just put some water on that. For this, you can use the water brush, okay? Gouache is basically watercolor plus white, okay? And so it's all watercolor and it will not dry hard like acrylic does, okay? It's basically just a slightly darker color than the watercolor and a slightly thicker consistency, but you can always dilute it. If you dilute gouache, you basically get watercolor, depending on what's in the gouache. Okay. Right, now I'm putting in the glycerin. All right, and wait, I always like to put the caps on, otherwise I will spill. As you could see earlier, I'm a disaster area. Okay, so now I'm just mixing it together with the paintbrush. What the glycerin does is it gives you that sort of slickness that allows you to use an applicator to put it on the page. That's what the glycerin does. Okay, just let's get, this was the watercolor one, good. All right, so now let's see what we get. Again, in my opinion, we'll get something similar to this, but darker. Yeah, yes. So as you can see, it's similar to the watercolor, but slightly darker. Oh, it also glides more smoothly onto the paper. I think that we are going to use the gouache with the glycerin because we're going to get the darker color, but the smoother glide on the paper. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So just give me 2 more minutes to get everything sorted out here and I will be back. Let me just recap what we've got here on my palette. I have mixed Arteza gouache in the ballerina pink. You can use any color that you like that you think will match your page. I have some glycerin and a pipette that I have used to take the glycerin and put it onto the paint. I have a little water bottle to dilute the paint that is on the palette. And I have a blender thingy that I'm going to use to apply it to the page, as well as a watercolor brush to mix it all together. I'm just going to put this on the side and, oops, of course it rolled away. And this on the side over here. And basically I just take the color and I apply it to my page. All right, now when the color gets, if you think it's too diluted, you can add paint. If you think it's not diluted enough, you can add water. If you think it needs to be a little bit more slick, you can add glycerin. And I will always periodically just replenish the mixture because it gets used up and keep applying it to the page. It is going to change the color of the page a little bit, but yeah, that's okay. And again, don't worry if you get it a little bit onto the other elements because, yeah, they're going to be colored over with pencil anyway. Another thing you can do is just avoid the smaller areas, and then later on we can go in with a paintbrush and put the same mixture around the little elements. In fact, I am now going to just pick up some more paint there, and it will smooth it all out. Okay, now one of the effects that you can get if you want, because this is similar to distress ink, if you flick water on it, it will do the same effect that you can get with the distress ink of the, the water splashes. It will do exactly the same thing because it's basically watercolor. Distress ink is either ink or watercolor mixed with water and put onto that pad. So yeah, I'm just going to now mix a little bit more paint. I can show you again the process. Yeah, so as I said, this is a less of a chatty and more of an instructional video this week. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit more of the gouache, right? Now I'm just going to dilute it with water. Mix it all together. I do feel that I need a little bit more glycerin because it's not gliding on the page as much as I would like. So I will put more of the glycerin. I think I need a bit more. These pipettes, they're okay, but I don't think they work as well as I would like. Sorry for the squeaky noises. Okay, all right. But they are reusable and disposable, so. All right, so I'm mixing the glycerin in with the paint, yeah. Right, and now I get my applicator and I just put it on. And it really oh yes, more glycerin did the trick. It's definitely going on a lot more smooth. Yeah, so everything can be fixed. This is the point of this Saturday Snippets. Okay, so now I can get into the chattiness because, you know, I've shown you the technique and now it's just a matter of applying it. Yeah, so welcome everybody. I think we're already like half an hour into this video before I'm saying welcome, but welcome. Just wait, let me make sure I've got my protective sheet. I hope that you are all enjoying the weekend. It has been a pretty good week. I started a new book. I am reading. Yeah, I'm also going to go over this because I want the colors to be cohesive. And I think that by adding this color on top of this color, I will get a much more cohesive look to my page. You can even go into the little areas, but I might take a paintbrush later and just go in between those areas. Yeah, so I started a new book, as I was saying. I am reading, it's called The Awakening by Nora Roberts. Oh, I think I was talking about Nora Roberts last week, and it sort of encouraged me to start one of her books. So if you have read Nora Roberts before, then it's very similar to all of her other books. She has a sort of style, but while it's similar, it's also slightly different. This is the first book in the Dragon Legacy trilogy. And her trilogy books, I tend to prefer her romantic suspense standalone books. So, for example, yeah, you can see I've gotten a bit of it onto, but you can always rub it off with your finger too. Yes, it's messy, but it's fun. Yeah, I'm just going to go over there. Yeah, so I tend to prefer her standalone romantic suspense books, but I've also enjoyed her trilogies. One of my absolute favorite trilogies of hers was called the Sign of Seven trilogy. And it was very similar to a Stephen King novel. Okay, I think I need more of my mixture. So 1 second, let's just do that. So again, I put down the gouache. Yeah, I mix it. I dilute it with some water, just a squeeze. Okay, I mix it together. Yeah, it's already getting mixed with the glycerin that's already on the page, but I will add a bit more glycerin because I feel that it needs some good slide. All right. If you don't add the glycerin, the applicator is not going to glide on the page as much, and you could even damage the paper. So that's what the glycerin does. It creates that slickness, as I said, which means the applicator will slide on the paper. Okay. I'm not sure what they put in Distress ink to get it to, slide on the paper. Maybe even glycerin or some sort of oil. I don't know. Something that's going to make it a bit more slick. Okay. All right. Now let's put here. Yeah, so as I was saying, one of my favorite Nora Roberts series is called The Sign of Seven, and it's got this great Stephen King vibe to it. So if you've read any Stephen King with the demons or the evil characters, it's got an evil character like that. Anyway, it's really great. I really enjoyed it, but that's not what I'm reading now. I'm reading the first book in the Dragon Legacy, and this one is set in Ireland, and it's all about the Fae and things like that. To a certain extent, it's reminding me a little bit more of her Cousins O'Dwyer series, which is more about the Fae and things like that. So right now, I'm enjoying it. It's a bit slow. This series is obviously going to focus on the same primary character throughout all 3 books. And this first part of the book, I'm about 250 pages in, which is just over halfway through. And so much of it so far has been world building. And I'm like, get on with the action already. But I do like Nora Roberts' style, so I'm willing to, carry on. And I'm sure that once the action picks up, it will be really good. So, yeah. Ooh, I like this. This is... And what's happened is that the Faber-Castell gelato that we put underneath is coming up as sort of like shadow, which is nice. It's creating this sort of effect, this layered effect, which I like. Yeah, it's gonna look really good once it's dry. And again, it's going to dry lighter than what you're seeing on the page now. Yes, it will definitely dry lighter. And we can also add embellishments afterwards. Yes, we can add gel pen, we can add shiny paint. We can see what we want to put at the end. But, I just don't want to get any on that page. Even though we can make the background of this page the same sort of pinky color. That sometimes happens. If I get paint or something onto a facing page, I just make the background of that page the same color. Okay. Oh, the kids are making a noise. They're playing outside. Okay, now what I want to do I want to put... Yeah, you can always take a look at a distance and see what it's looking like and see where you want to do touch-ups. Yes. Oh, I like what I'm getting. It looks a lot better. Yes. I like it. Yeah, so that is what I'm reading. I'm still watching American Monster. I'm really into it. I keep saying to myself, I will, move on to something else, and then I don't, because I start a new episode, and then I'm hooked. I think what I'm now going to do is I am going to take my brush. I think what I will do, I will add just a little bit more paint. All right. Dilute it. Now I'm not going to put the glycerin. First of all, I think there's enough glycerin already on my palette. I'm just going to mix this with the glycerin that I have already because I'm not going to use the applicator. I want to take this brush, all right, and just go in between the areas where I can't use the applicator and just put this color. If you feel that you like the effect that you've gotten and you don't want to do this, then you don't have to do it. I just want to, make sure I've got this color also in between. But of course, also when we shade with pencils, yeah, it's also going to go in there. You can also shade in these smaller spaces with pencils. But I think the applicator did a pretty good job, and we didn't get too much of it onto the flowers and leaves. Yeah, I'm not sure yet what color I'm thinking white. We can make the flowers white and the leaves green. Am I on camera? Yes. Yeah. So basically, I'm just making sure that this color is also in other places, and you can get into these smaller areas with the paintbrush. 1 second, let's bring this closer. Yeah, so that's what I'm watching. What else did I see this week that was interesting? I saw on Threads that it's spring, so all the deer are having their fawns, and these fawns are ending up all over the place in places that they shouldn't be. So just here, I'm gonna dab. I don't want to have brush strokes. So these deer, they give birth to the fawns, and then the doe, she goes off to eat. And someone was explaining that baby fawns don't have any scent, or they have a really mild scent. So the doe will leave the baby fawn and go away from it so that her scent won't attract predators to the baby. And she will go off to forage and get food and eat, and she will leave her baby in any space that she feels is safe. So people are finding them in their gardens. One lady found one on top of a grate. It had gotten stuck, and she was really smart. You're not supposed to touch them, because if a human being puts their scent on the baby, then the mother might not come back. So this lady was very smart. She took off her jacket. She picked up the baby fawn with the jacket, and it turned out the mother wasn't that far away. So she put it down, and yeah, it walked off to its mother. That was cool. So people are, being told not to touch them, and people are being very good. I'm just making sure I have enough paint in these other areas. Okay, let's have a look and see what we've got. This dries pretty quickly as well, and not as quickly as gouache, but more. I found that not gouache, acrylic. Acrylic dries really quickly, like within a couple of minutes and perhaps even less. I find it difficult to work with acrylic because it dries so quickly. But gouache dries less quickly than acrylic, but more quickly than watercolor. All right, I'm just putting this around the edges here. Yeah, so I find that when I use watercolor, I have to let it dry for a while before I will put pencil. So I'm just going around, making sure we've got it all. Oh, I really like that. Okay, let's stop here and have a look at what we've got. Hold on 1 second. This is what it's looking like right now, and I'm really pleased with our rescue mission. I think that the do-it-yourself distress ink technique managed to salvage what we had, and I even like the Faber-Castell gelato that is coming up from underneath that technique. And now we're going to move over to doing some of these flowers. The paint itself is dry, but I am going to just put down a page to rest my hand on so I don't smudge anything. And the colors we're going to use are Deco Pink, Pink, Magenta, and White. And we're going to start with the Deco Pink. And I'm just going to put this down on some of these flowers. They're going to be pinky white flowers. So I'm just putting that there. Okay, so yeah, what was I talking about? Okay, I was talking about reading Nora Roberts. And then that I'm still watching American Monster. Oh yeah, and then I was talking about the deer, and that people are very good in not touching them, but they do end up in the strangest of places. And yeah, so that was cute. What else did I see? Oh, I also saw on Threads that there is a channel which I started following. It's called Teddy the Squirrel. So Teddy the Squirrel is a dwarf squirrel. I didn't know that this was a thing. So I understand that it's a syndrome that it's not a breed of squirrel, rather it's a regular squirrel who is suffering from dwarfism, but he's been rescued and he is just the most adorable little thing. So the lady who rescued Teddy is sharing his journey with us, and he's absolutely adorable. So if you are on Threads, look up Teddy the Squirrel. And the lady who records Teddy, she just, it's the little snippets are called Teddy Time. just adorable, Teddy. Yeah, all right, let's move on over here. I'm hoping that these pinks will look nice together. And what else did I see? Oh, speaking of squirrels, so I saw on Threads there, King Charles is a patron of the Red Squirrel organization that is protecting the red squirrels in the UK. It turns out that red squirrels are indigenous to the United Kingdom, but they're on the decline. They're going to be added, or they already have been added, to the endangered species list because gray squirrels are a threat to them. So it turns out gray squirrels are American squirrels that came over from the United States in the 1800s on ships, and they're a much larger species of squirrel, and they carry a disease called, I can't remember what it's called, some sort of virus that only affects red squirrels. Gray squirrels carry this virus, but red squirrels are affected by it. And so the populations of red squirrels are declining, and the gray squirrels also encroach on their habitat. So it was all very, very interesting reading about the gray versus the red squirrels. And gray squirrels are also a little bit more aggressive than red squirrels. But yeah, so they want to help them. They've got this plan. I'm just moving this up around. They've got this plan using genetic engineering to reduce the gray squirrel population. So they're not going to cull them. What they're going to do is release into the population gray squirrels that have been genetically engineered to be infertile. And this will reduce the gray squirrel population. And from what I understand, this is what my biotechnology students study, genetic engineering. They already do it with mosquitoes to reduce the incidence of malaria. Malaria is spread by the Anopheles mosquito. And it's really interesting. Malaria is still the number one killer in the world. So yeah, what pink did I use there? I used regular pink. Wasn't I supposed to use deco pink? Never mind. They don't have to be identical. Now I'm going to go in with the magenta. Yeah, so they have introduced into the Anopheles mosquito populations, they have introduced also infertile females. And this reduces the population of mosquitoes and reduces the incidence of malaria. So they do it very carefully. They don't want to upset the very delicate ecosystems, because sometimes mosquitoes are necessary. You can't just kill all of them. And so they do these things very carefully. And they're going to apply this technique to the gray squirrels to try and reduce their populations to protect the red squirrels. Yeah, you don't really think of squirrels as a menace. Well, I don't know, because here in Israel we don't have squirrels. They are not a species that we have. We have rock rabbits. They are adorable. We have rock rabbits in my neighborhood, and they're not a menace or a pest, but people are told not to touch them because they bite. But the students at my college, we have rock rabbits at the college too. There was a little while ago, they sent round an email to all the students, please don't touch the rock rabbits, please don't feed the rock rabbits. So yeah, that was really interesting. What else did I see on Threads? I saw, there was a really interesting post about creativity and walking. So it turns out that if you walk, you are more likely to think creatively than if you are trying to think creatively while sitting down. And to be perfectly honest, I agree with this, because when I was doing my PhD, I got some of my best ideas while I was walking with Toby. I would walk with him, and I would take a pad and pencil with me, and I would write down all the ideas that I thought of for my PhD while we were out on our walks. I think people in the neighborhood thought I was completely bonkers. There I am, walking the dog and writing things. But yeah, I got some great ideas for the PhD while I was doing that, and then I would come home and I would apply them, and then I would write them into the PhD. So I definitely agreed with this finding from the study, and it was a really interesting study because, the researcher who was doing the study, she needed to, try and think of alternative explanations for this, and then rule them out. So she had a control group who were given tasks to do while they were sitting down, while they were standing, as opposed to the test group who had to do these tasks while they were walking. And it was really, really interesting study. So I saw that. What else did I see? This is, I think people are outside in the building. I never know I think I've said this before, but I never know what noises the camera picks up. So next week, moving away from Threads, next week, let me just press pause while my neighbors decide whether they're coming or going. Hold on one second. Okay, sorry about that. Turns out they were moving furniture. Anyway, so I don't remember what I was talking about. Never mind. Right, let's have a look. I think, yes, now let's take some white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the white, and from the top, I'm just going to blend this out onto all of these leaves, because I actually want them to be a bit more white than pink. But I think they're going to turn out being more pink than white, but that's okay. I will also put some gel pen around the petals, which will make them look more white. Yeah, so we're going to do that. I don't remember what I was talking about. I was talking about squirrels. Oh, and then I was talking about the study with the walking, which I thought was fascinating. And what else did I see? I'm trying to think if I saw anything else interesting in the world. Oh, I also saw a article about the accuracy of the costumes that they put in period dramas on television. So I belong on Reddit to a subreddit on period dramas, and there was a whole discussion about whether or not the costumes were accurate. So this was a really large and long discussion. It had something like 300 posts, and people were talking about their favorite shows and whether or not the costumes were technically correct with proper corsets for the time period and things like that. So that was fun. Okay, I think that I am going to end this now because my neighbors have decided to be really noisy. I think there's another neighbor now who's decided that she's going to start, vacuuming any second now. So I think I'm just going to call this quits for now, and we will continue coloring this page next week and start doing all of the other elements now that our background is in. Okay, so let's have a look. There you have it. That's our page with its Distress Ink Rescue background. And we've also started coloring the flowers. Thank you everybody for joining me for this week's Saturday Snippets, which was a little bit more instructive than chatty this time. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you try out this technique, even if it's on a different page. And I wish you all a wonderful weekend. And I hope to see you again soon for future videos. Bye for now.